Welcome to Motherhood Life. I'm Julie, and this is Reading Through the Bible in a Year. We're reading from the Chronological Bible. Today we're going to be reading Genesis 20 to Genesis 21:21. So grab your mugs with whatever it is you're drinking this morning. I've got my Let It Snow mug because there isn't any snow out there. I love snow. Anyway, let's get going here. It starts with a little narration entitled Abraham Deceives Abimelech. Okay. The human condition is always surprising. It has been 20 years since Abraham was in Egypt and lied to the Pharaoh about Sarah's being his sister and not his wife. In the intervening 2 decades, Abraham has been reassured repeatedly that God will continue to bless him and keep his promises. Abraham has been honored with the very presence of God and made to witness the destructive power of God's judgment against Sodom and Gomorrah. Yet almost unbelievably, the Genesis account records that Abraham once again lies about his true relationship with Sarah, this time to a pre-Philistine father king whose titular name is Abimelech. Abimelech may desire to marry Sarah in order to form an alliance with Abraham, whom he undoubtedly regards as a powerful nomad prince. Fortunately, God intervenes before any doubt can be cast upon the paternity of the son whom Sarah will soon bear to Abraham. Not so fortunately, there continues to be doubt cast upon the character of this great man of faith, despite all his outstanding qualities. Abraham appears to have a tendency towards deception. Interestingly enough, that same character flaw will be seen again in his son and grandsons. It simply stands as a warning that even men and women of faith can lapse into great sin. If there is any encouragement, however, it is in knowing that while there is bad in the best of mankind, there is also good in the worst. As a Canaanite, Abimelech is not a believer in the true God and undoubtedly engages in common heathen practices. Yet he asserts in his defense to God that he has acted in good conscience. Even if he is somehow still guilty in God's eyes, then he responds to divine rebuke with repentance, generosity, and kindness. Why Abraham is in the territory of Gerar in the first place is unknown. Perhaps it is at the direction of God, or simply because Abraham's herds and flocks need more pasture land than he can find for them in Mamre. So now we pick up with Genesis 20. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said to his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in a dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all yours will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he had told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should not be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, 'There is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's house, household. I said to her, this is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother. Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, my land is before you. Live wherever you like. So to Sarah he said, I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his slave girls, so they could have children again. For the Lord had closed up every womb in Abimelech's household because of Abraham's wife Sarah. And here's a little narration about the birth of Isaac. It cannot be long after this bittersweet experience with Abimelech that Sarah conceives a child by Abraham. Even during a period of extended lifespans, with Abraham at 100 and Sarah at 90 years of age, in human terms, childbirth would have been impossible. Sarah herself is clearly astonished, for she and Abraham have waited 25 years for this promised son, sometimes fully believing, sometimes filled with doubt and outright disbelief. So we pick up with Genesis 21. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham and Sarah that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. And then this is a little tiny narration at the bottom. The song of joy which Sarah sings at Isaac's birth is a happy prelude to what a much younger Hebrew mother in another age will come to sing in joyous anticipation of her promised son, the true spiritual heir to Abraham. A narration entitled Abraham and Abimelech's Settled Dispute. In the time which had passed since Abraham came into the land ruled by Abimelech, Abraham has greatly prospered, not only in having a son born in his old age, but also in the increase of his flocks and herds. It is only natural, then, that Abimelech should become concerned about Abraham's growing power. The Genesis account records Abimelech's diplomatic move to protect his own political position by entering into a treaty of mutual peace with Abraham. A brief account follows of how Abraham and Abimelech implement the spirit of the treaty in resolving a dispute over a well. The significance of the agreement lies in the extreme importance of water sources in such a desert area. Genesis 21:22. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show to me that the country where you are living as an alien, the same kindness I have shown to you. Abraham said, I swear it. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves? He replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. So that place was called Beersheba, because the two men swore an oath there. After the treaty had been made in Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called upon the name of the Lord, the eternal God, And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. And a little tiny narration here that says, even in modern times, the city of Beersheba, meaning well of seven or well of the oath, stands as a tribute to the amicable attitude with which these two men diffused a potentially explosive situation. Now here's a narration entitled Expulsion of Hagar and Ishmael. Probably 3 years have passed since Isaac was born, and it is the name of Isaac's weaning, and it is the time of Isaac's weaning. The customary feast at the time of a child's weaning is normally an occasion for celebration, but the feast for Isaac becomes an occasion for resentment. Sarah knows that Ishmael, now a lad of 17, is mocking young Isaac, and that he also represents a threat to Isaac's right of inheritance. It is therefore Sarah's wish that Abraham cast out Ishmael along with his mother, Hagar. Naturally, Abraham is reluctant to do this, not only because of his natural ties to Ishmael, but also because of the customary law of his day, which forbids the expulsion of a slave wife and her children. But God, for his own reasons, instructs Abraham to do as Sarah has requested, and Abraham makes the painful separation. As Ishmael and his mother wander through the desert region, and their supply of water finally runs out, Hagar lapses into despair. Although 17 years old, Ishmael evidently is still immature and very much dependent upon Hagar. The picture is that both Hagar and the boy are sitting in the desert, sobbing at their imminent death, but God responds to Ishmael's crying by providing a well of water, and he reassures Hagar that Ishmael will be the father of a nation. The account begins as Isaac grows from infancy into early childhood. Genesis 21, Genesis 21:8. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking, and she said to Abraham, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that slave woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac." The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son, but God said to him, "Do not be distressed about the boy and your maidservant. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the maidservant into a nation also, because he is your offspring." Early the next morning Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down nearby, about a bow shot away, for she thought, "I cannot watch the boy die." And as she sat there nearby, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. And that finishes up our reading for the Word of God for today. Thank you for joining me here on Mohood Life, and I hope that you all have a blessed day.